Hi friends, welcome back to Televera. Today, we're going to follow the incredible journey of a boy from a small village in Austria who dreamed of becoming something far greater than anyone around him could imagine. He had almost no money, no Hollywood connections, and no easy path to success. But he had an extraordinary ambition, and the determination to chase it across the world. From bodybuilding and poverty to Hollywood fame and becoming one of the most recognizable people on the planet. This is the true story of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's start. Arnold Schwarzenegger was born on July 30th, 1947, in the small Austrian village of Thal, near Graz. Nothing about his childhood suggested that he would one day become a world-famous actor, bodybuilding champion, and political leader. He grew up in a modest household with his parents, Gustav and Aurelia Schwarzenegger, and his older brother, Meinhard. Arnold's father was a local police chief and expected his son to live a disciplined and ordinary life. But Arnold had a different idea of what his future should look like. As a teenager, he became fascinated by bodybuilding. At a time when bodybuilding was still a relatively small sport, Arnold saw photographs of muscular athletes and became convinced that he could build a remarkable physique of his own. His dream quickly became an obsession. He began training with weights and spending countless hours learning about exercise and nutrition. The young Arnold was not simply exercising to stay healthy. He had created a vision of himself as a champion. He wanted to become the greatest bodybuilder in the world. His ambition was so unusual that people around him did not always understand it. Why would a young man from a small Austrian village dream about becoming a famous American bodybuilder? Arnold did not have a simple answer. He simply believed that his future was somewhere far beyond the life he had been born into. He started entering bodybuilding competitions while still very young. In 1965, at the age of 18, he won the Junior Mr. Europe title. The victory gave him confidence, but it also confirmed something much bigger in his mind. His dream might actually be possible. Arnold continued training and competing, and his physique became increasingly impressive. His next goal was America. To Arnold, America represented opportunity. It was the place where a person could arrive with very little and potentially become somebody extraordinary. In 1968, he moved to the United States. He was only 21 years old. He arrived with limited English, little money compared with the people he would eventually meet, and no guarantee that his dream would work out. But he had something he considered more important: absolute belief in himself. Arnold began building his life in California, where bodybuilding was becoming increasingly popular. He trained intensely and entered major competitions. His body was unlike anything many audiences had seen before. He was enormous, muscular, confident, and completely focused on winning. In 1967, before moving permanently to America, he had already won the prestigious Mr. Universe title in London, becoming the youngest winner at the time. But America offered an even bigger challenge. Arnold wanted to dominate the sport at its highest level. He trained at Gold's Gym in Venice, California, where he became part of a community of elite bodybuilders. Training was brutal. Arnold pushed himself for hours, repeatedly working toward greater size, strength, and definition. He also studied the psychology of competition. He understood that bodybuilding was not only about having muscles. It was about presentation, confidence, discipline, and convincing judges that you were the best person on the stage. Arnold became a master of all of these elements. He won the Mr. Universe title several more times and eventually reached the biggest prize in bodybuilding, Mr. Olympia. In 1970, he won his first Mr. Olympia title. He was only 23 years old, but winning once was not enough for Arnold. He wanted to establish himself as the greatest greatest bodybuilder of his generation. He continued competing and improving. His confidence became part of his identity. He openly talked about his goals, even when they sounded impossible. He believed that a person needed to see the destination before beginning the journey. Arnold's success in bodybuilding also started attracting attention outside the sport. He appeared in magazines, met celebrities, and began developing a public personality that was much larger than bodybuilding itself. But another dream was beginning to take shape. Arnold wanted to become an actor. This dream was much harder than bodybuilding. His accent was extremely strong. His name was difficult for some Americans to pronounce, and Hollywood did not know what to do with a massive Austrian bodybuilder. Many people believed his physique was too extreme for mainstream movies. Others thought his accent made him unsuitable for major acting roles. Arnold heard these criticisms, but he did not abandon the idea. He believed that bodybuilding had already taught him the most important lesson of his life. If you want something badly enough, you have to keep working after other people tell you that it is impossible. And now, he was about to enter a completely different world where his biggest challenge would not be building his body. It would be proving that the man behind the muscles could become a star. Arnold Schwarzenegger's dream of becoming an actor was now facing a completely different kind of challenge. In bodybuilding, his unusual physique had made him stand out. In Hollywood, that same physique made people wonder whether he could ever become a believable leading man. His accent was another obstacle. Casting directors often struggled to understand him, and some believed that his voice and appearance would prevent him from becoming a major star. Arnold refused to accept that judgment. He continued taking acting lessons, improving his English, and studying how successful actors presented themselves on screen. He understood that becoming an actor would require him to learn an entirely new skill set. His first major film role came in Hercules in New York in 1970. The movie gave him an opportunity, but it also exposed his weaknesses. His dialogue was dubbed in the original release because his accent was considered difficult for audiences to understand. For someone who dreamed of becoming a Hollywood star, it could have been humiliating. Arnold, however, treated the experience as another lesson. He kept training, kept acting, and kept looking for the next opportunity. At the same time, his bodybuilding career continued to grow. He won the Mr. Olympia title multiple times and became one of the most recognizable figures in the sport. His fame gave him opportunities that other aspiring actors did not have. He appeared in television programs, magazines, interviews, and documentaries. People were beginning to recognize the massive Austrian bodybuilder with the unforgettable name. But Arnold wanted more than recognition. He wanted a breakthrough. During the 1970s, he slowly moved toward more serious acting opportunities. His role in Stay Hungry earned him a Golden Globe Award for New Star of the Year in 1977. It was an important moment because Hollywood was beginning to see that Arnold could do more than simply stand on a bodybuilding stage. He could actually entertain audiences. But the role that would change everything was still ahead. In the early 1980s, Arnold appeared in Conan the Barbarian. The film presented him as a powerful action hero, and audiences responded to his physical presence and screen charisma. The movie became successful enough to establish Arnold as a legitimate action star. But even then, nobody could predict what would happen next. In 1984, Arnold appeared in The Terminator. He played a nearly unstoppable machine sent from the future, and the role transformed his career. Interestingly, Arnold had very little dialogue compared with a traditional leading actor. Instead, his appearance, movement, presence, and distinctive voice became part of the character's identity. The film became a major success, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was no longer simply a famous bodybuilder trying to become an actor. He was becoming a Hollywood superstar. His career accelerated rapidly. He began appearing in major action films and became known for his larger-than-life personality. Movies such as Commando, Predator, The Running Man, and later Total Recall established him as one of the biggest action stars of the era. But Arnold did not want to remain trapped in one type of role. He began showing that he could also succeed in comedy. In 1988, twins placed him alongside Danny DeVito in a completely different kind of movie. The film's success demonstrated that audiences were willing to see Arnold as more than a serious action hero. He followed it with Kindergarten Cop, which became another major success. His ability to move between action and comedy made him even more popular. By the early 1990s, Arnold had reached a level of fame that few people could have imagined when he first arrived in America. Then came Terminator 2: Judgment Day in 1991. The film became one of the biggest blockbusters of its era, and Arnold's role as the reprogrammed Terminator became one of the most recognizable characters in popular culture. The movie's success confirmed his status as one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Yet Arnold's ambitions were still expanding. He had already achieved the dreams that had once seemed impossible. He had become a bodybuilding champion and a Hollywood star. But now he wanted to enter a completely different world, politics. For many people, the idea sounded unbelievable. How could an Austrian-born bodybuilder and movie star eventually become a major political figure in America? Arnold's answer was the same as it had been throughout his life: set a goal, believe in it, and work toward it. He had become an American citizen in 1983, and over the years he developed a strong interest in public affairs. He also married Maria Shriver, a member of the influential Kennedy family, and became increasingly involved in public and charitable activities. His public profile gave him an enormous platform, but becoming a political leader would require something completely different from acting or bodybuilding. He would have to convince millions of people that he could lead them. In 2003, California entered a political crisis surrounding Governor Gray Davis. A recall election was called, and Arnold decided to enter the race. The announcement surprised almost everyone. The famous actor who had once said "I'll be back" on movie screens was now telling Californians that he wanted to become their governor. His campaign quickly attracted enormous media attention. He used his celebrity, confidence, communication skills, and personal story to connect with voters. He also faced serious criticism and difficult questions. His opponents attacked his experience and political record. But Arnold had spent his entire life entering fields where people told him he did not belong. Bodybuilding, acting, Hollywood, now politics. He won the recall election and became the governor of California in 2003. The journey was extraordinary. A young Austrian immigrant who had once arrived in America with limited English and a dream of becoming a bodybuilder had now reached one of the highest political offices in the United States. But becoming governor did not mean his story had reached an easy ending. Political leadership brought new pressure, difficult decisions, criticism, and controversies. Arnold had entered another world where fame and confidence alone could not solve every problem. The next chapter would test whether the man who had transformed himself so many times could handle the responsibilities of leading one of America's largest states. Becoming governor of California was one of the most unexpected chapters of Arnold Schwarzenegger's life. The same man who had once arrived in America as a young Austrian immigrant with limited English was now responsible for leading one of the largest and most influential states in the country. But the world of politics was very different from bodybuilding and Hollywood. Arnold faced complex problems, political opposition, criticism, and decisions that could not be solved simply through confidence or determination. His time as governor became a period of both achievements and controversy. He worked on issues including the environment, infrastructure, education, and California's financial problems. He also became known internationally for supporting environmental initiatives and promoting cleaner energy policies. But political life was not always successful. Arnold faced criticism over some of his decisions and struggled at times to work with a divided political system. His approval ratings changed dramatically during his years in office, showing that popularity in Hollywood did not automatically translate into political success. Still, Arnold continued trying to adapt. That ability to adapt had been one of the defining characteristics of his entire life. He had already transformed himself from a young Austrian into a bodybuilding champion, then into a Hollywood actor, and finally into a political leader. In 2011, after serving 2 terms as governor, Arnold left office. He returned to acting and began appearing in major films again. His return was not exactly the same as it had been during his peak in the 1980s and 1990s. He was older, and the entertainment industry had changed, but his name still carried enormous recognition. He continued appearing in films and television projects while also remaining active in public life. His career had now lasted for decades, something very few entertainers could achieve at the same level. Yet Arnold's story also includes parts of his personal life that were far more complicated than the image of the unstoppable action hero. His marriage to Maria Shriver ended after years together, and the separation became a major public story. Arnold also publicly acknowledged that he had fathered a child outside his marriage. The revelation created enormous personal and media pressure. For someone whose public image had been built around strength and control, these events showed a different side of his life. Success did not protect him from mistakes, consequences, or difficult relationships. Instead of pretending that his life had been perfect, Arnold eventually spoke openly about his mistakes and the lessons he had learned. That honesty became an important part of his later public image. As he grew older, Arnold also became increasingly focused on health, fitness, environmental issues, and inspiring younger generations. He continued training and remained deeply connected to bodybuilding. He often emphasized that physical strength was only one part of a successful life. Discipline, education, hard work, and the ability to keep moving after failure were equally important. His philosophy was shaped by decades of experience. Arnold understood what it meant to start with a dream that other people considered unrealistic. He also understood that success did not happen because of one lucky moment. His journey required thousands of ordinary days of work. There were days when he trained while others rested. There were moments when Hollywood rejected him. There were times when people mocked his accent or questioned whether he could become an actor. There were political battles where his decisions were criticized, and there were personal moments when fame could not protect him from pain. Yet each chapter became part of the same larger story. Arnold's greatest achievement may not be any individual bodybuilding title, movie, or political position. It may be the fact that he repeatedly reinvented himself. He did not remain trapped inside the identity that made him successful first. When bodybuilding gave him fame, he pursued acting. When acting made him a global star, he he entered politics. When politics ended, he returned to entertainment and public service. Each transformation required him to become a beginner again. That is what makes his story so unusual. Most people spend their lives trying to become successful in one field. Arnold repeatedly entered completely different worlds and attempted to reach the top. His story began in a small Austrian village where a young boy imagined a future that seemed impossibly distant. He dreamed of America long before he understood how difficult the journey would be. He eventually crossed the Atlantic, built an extraordinary physique, became one of the greatest bodybuilders in history, and changed the way the world viewed bodybuilding. Then he entered Hollywood and became an action icon. He became the Terminator, starred in some of the biggest movies of his generation, and became a household name across the world. Then he surprised everyone again by entering politics and becoming governor of California. Through all of it, Arnold remained a person who believed strongly in setting goals and refusing to let circumstances define his future. His story is not a story of a perfect man who never made mistakes. It is the story of someone who repeatedly faced obstacles, made successes and mistakes, experienced victories and failures, and continued moving forward. The boy from Thal could never have known where his ambition would take him. He could not have predicted the trophies, the movie premieres, the political campaigns, or the millions of people who would eventually recognize his name. But he understood one thing very early: if he wanted a different life, he had to build it himself. And perhaps that is the most powerful lesson in Arnold Schwarzenegger's journey. Great achievements do not always begin with great circumstances. Sometimes they begin with a person who simply refuses to accept that their current situation is the limit of their future. From a small village in Austria to the biggest stages in bodybuilding, from Hollywood to the governor's office, Arnold Schwarzenegger spent his life proving that a person can change direction, start again, and pursue a completely new dream. His story is ultimately not just about muscles, movies, or politics. It is about ambition, reinvention, resilience, and the courage to chase a dream long after other people have stopped believing in it. And that is why the journey of Arnold Schwarzenegger remains one of the most remarkable success stories of modern times.